Well, welcome everyone. You're here for Intro to Leave 10. So just want to make sure you're in the right spot. I'm Mindie Reule. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the president and CEO of the Community Foundation of South Puget Sound, and I'm one of our co-presenters today. I'm also the co-chair of the steering committee of Leave 10 South Sound. I'm going to ask my other co-presenters, Kirstin, Willis, and Doug Page, to introduce themselves as well. And then we want to get to know you and who's in the room, and we have a little poll for you. So Kirstin, I'll hand it over to you.
Excellent. Thanks, Mindie. I am Kirstin Willis, and I am the development director at Sound Outreach. I've been there for about 3 years, and I am a newbie to Leave 10 about 6 months ago. Got involved and have just learned so much, and I'm excited to be here today to present to you all about the Leave 10 movement and plan giving, and extremely excited to have Doug introduce himself next.
Why, thanks, Kirstin. I'm Doug Page. I serve as the Senior Legacy Fellow at the Greater Tacoma Community Foundation. I've been there for all of about 6 months, 5 months, and so don't ask me any tough questions. I retired from Pacific Lutheran University after about a almost 26-year career there, and I've done other things in the gift planning world. I was one of the fortunate ones that Evelyn Ryberg wrangled in to this thing called Leave 10 when it was just a little seed in her mind. And we're so proud of what it's become today, and I'm happy to have been a part of it. So good to see you all.
Thanks for being here, everyone. The other person I want to introduce is Genevieve Ferrari on my left. I don't know where they are on other people's screens, but Genevieve is the program administrator for Leave 10 and helps make all of this possible. Okay, so you're here for Intro to Leave 10, what it is and why now. Really, this webinar is designed for small nonprofits, professional advisors, really just as an introduction to Leave 10, what it is and what's available to you. To get us started, I'm gonna just ask you all, we're not gonna share here, but just think for a moment. What would a $25,000 unrestricted gift make possible for your organization and for your mission? Just think about that for a second. What about a $250,000 gift? What about 1 million? And when I do this presentation, when we have more time, I actually do a longer turn and talk where I ask you to turn and share your answers with your neighbor. We're not going to do that today, but we do this exercise just to make the point that plan giving is really a strategy for setting up a pipeline for future gifts like these, future revenue streams like these for your organization. So what we're going to do today and what we have planned for you is we're going to give you a basic overview of the transfer of wealth, some myths, cover some myths and facts about planned giving, some actionable ways to get planned giving started at your organization, and we'll extend an invitation to become part of Leave 10 South Sound. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Doug.
Thank you, Mindie. So I'd like to introduce you to Mary Dale Brooks. We're going to start with a story. Now, I didn't know Mary Dale, but I'm guessing that Evelyn did, because this is Evelyn's gift, I'm pretty sure. Am I right, Evelyn? Oh, you're muted.
Oh, it's Sharana.
Oh, okay.
When she was at the foundation. So but I was familiar with this whole thing because I was kind of part of it in the background.
Yeah. Well, it's a great story. Mary Dale was a longtime resident of Buckley. She was very community minded. She was unassuming. In 2008, she created the White River Hometown Fund at the Greater Tacoma Community Foundation. That fund benefits the residents of White River, Carbonado, and Buckley. And then when Mary Dale passed away 10 years later in 2018, her estate added to the fund. Her legacy gifts have supported critical needs in her hometown, things like vans, a van to give homebound senior transportation to medical appointments. Seniors homebound, seniors who are homebound, you knew what I meant. Weekend food backpacks for students in the White River school districts, and clearing land at a senior living community in order to build a vegetable garden and for additional housing units. This is the power of legacy giving. It can transform our community for generations to come. So why is this important? Let's go to the next slide. Why is this important? Why are we talking about it now? Why should you be talking with your supervisors and your board about planned giving? Because we are in the very early stages of what's called the greatest wealth transfer in history. Next slide. The transfer of wealth, and some professors at Boston College, Paul Schervish, and I can't remember the other guy's name, they are the ones whose research revealed this information, that the silent generation and the baby boomers, they will transfer to the millennials and the Generation X generations over $84 trillion from 2020 to 2045. So it's happening now. In fact, by the way, yesterday, the new Giving USA numbers came out. $571 billion was donated to philanthropy in 2023. Most of the gifts were actually less because they were inflation adjusted. In other words, most categories were lower, except for one, and that's bequests. Bequests actually outpaced inflation in 2023. That's going to happen a lot. Trillion, thank you. I said billion. I knew that wasn't right. Thank you, Mindie. All right, next slide. We did a study, and when I say we, I mean Evelyn, because like I said, I've only been at the foundation for a couple of days now. They did a study, and we found that in one county, in Pierce County, there is a combined net worth of about $269 billion. Not trillion this time, but $1 billion just inside Pierce County, just in our little county. Next slide. What does that mean? Over 10 years, we can expect it'll start around 3.5 billion annually. And by 2035, the annual transfer of wealth will be nearly 7.5 billion. Aggregated over the next 10 years, 48.6 billion will transfer. The next 10 years, that's not that long. Over the next 50 years, $482 billion will transfer from one generation to the next. Genevieve, will you put in the chat the link? We've got a link to the study from the GTCF website, so you can download that and read it and share it with your colleagues. The next slide, please. So research shows, obviously, that most of this wealth will be transferred on to heirs. However, and maybe we go back to Mindie's question, imagine. However, if people left only a small percentage of their estates to the organizations and the causes that they care about, your organizations, it could have a dramatic effect. Imagine, we invite you to think about what it would mean for your mission if more people set aside just 10% of their estates. It could be more, it could be less. But if they set aside 10% of their estates to benefit the organizations that they love, if people designated just 10% of their estates for nonprofits over the next 10 years, this could create a collective endowment. So let's say they went into an endowment worth $4.9 billion. And then over 20 years, this is where the numbers get kind of fun. Over 20 years, this would provide $279 million per year to sustain operating expenses or to support new programs and to help achieve the mission of your organizations. So that's why we're so excited about this Leave 10 and why we're talking so much about bequest and legacy giving. Now, the next slide shows you a little bit about the assets, and there's a lot of numbers here, and you'll find this on that link that we shared. But basically, donors have more assets than even they may imagine. Don't try to read this whole chart, but just look at the colors. Green is the percent of assets held in cash at each level of net worth. And the net worth increases going down the scale on this chart. So as you see, the other colors represent all the other assets, sometimes called complex assets, which can range from a residence to stocks, to retirement assets, to real estate, to business interests, even cryptocurrency, I suppose. The higher the net worth, the more complex the assets make up, with real estate and business interests making up the significant portion of assets. So you'll see as the wealth increases, the amount of cash, the green, gets smaller and smaller, but the blue, business interests and real estate interests, gets larger and larger. We all know Russell James has told us if we're not asking for assets, we're leaving a lot of money on the table. So you need to be thinking about assets, not just cash. Now, complex assets can be liquidated or transferred for philanthropic purposes as a complex gift, and advisors and nonprofits should be having these discussions around donating those assets when it's appropriate, allowing for clients to achieve greater opportunities, greater philanthropic impact, and maximize the financial benefits at the same time. It's true that these kinds of assets, these kinds of gifts can be difficult. It takes planning. These aren't easy gifts to just to land on your desk and to liquidate right away and you celebrate that night. But one of the biggest challenges or barriers, I suppose, I hear from nonprofits and planned giving has to do with the ability to accept complex assets, as well as discussing complex giving strategies with donors. But don't let that be a barrier. There are advisors, mentors, and other partners such as your local community foundation that can help you navigate these issues and accept complex gifts on your behalf. And there are many educational tools and resources available to help you become proficient at accepting complex assets. So speaking of complex gifts, let's go back to Marydale. Next slide, please, Genevieve. So she was a devoted philanthropist who started early. She was purposeful about layering her giving. She started with cash, and then eventually she moved over to appreciated securities. And her estate planning, as her estate planning evolved, she began to include gifts of real estate, including a gift of a retained life estate. We can talk about that later. After she passed, a relative is now living out their life in her home. And when that relative passes, that home sale will be added to the White River Hometown Fund. So Marydale was able to set up her estate to support her family and her community. So we like Marydale. Mindie, what is planned giving?
Thank you, Doug. And I do just want to say, even if you're not in Pierce County and those Pierce County wealth transfer numbers don't mean much to you, that wealth transfer is happening all across the United States, and it's such a critical time to ensure that your organization is preparing to take part in that opportunity. I heard a statistic recently that that most donors don't know what the term planned giving means, and maybe the average person, 4 out of 10 average people don't know what the term planned giving means. So really, all it means, also called legacy giving, is the intentional act of making or planning to make a gift to a charitable organization. That's it. Usually these gifts involve some sort of planning. They can take various forms, mostly gifts that go beyond cash to include other forms of assets or property. And so a little later, we'll talk about what some of those planned gifts are and what kinds of forms they take. But really, we're just talking about gifts that are kind of intentional and go beyond cash. So next slide, please. So the great wealth transfer and the story of Marydale was sort of some of the context setting for why this matters and why you should be paying attention at your organization. And next, Kirstin and I are going to talk about some myths and facts about planned giving. So I want to credit plannedgiving.com with these great slides, and let's go right into them.
All right. Our first myth is, but we need cash now. And in all actuality, I mean, I know a lot of you are feeling this right now, but the fact is that sometimes it can feel like with the day to day, month to month, real urgency of funding your organization, that planned giving just isn't an option. But the studies are showing that those who include planned giving in their estate plans will also or can also increase their annual giving. And it's not necessarily an either or conversation for you.
The next myth is that our organization is too young for planned giving, and or some variation of this. We're not ready for planned giving. And really, you know, the fact here is that someday can be a code for never. And if you're doing good work and have a mission that people connect to and have donors that are giving to you, then you are an organization that can start to think about planned giving. So planned gifts are a way that you can do that. You can think about planned giving and get started with planned giving really at any stage of your organization, especially if you have donors who support you.
And yes, the next myth, I need to be an expert on planned gifts and tax laws. Obviously, everybody needs to be an expert. But guess what? The truth is, you don't. Sometimes donors already have an attorney or a CPA that they're working with. And, sometimes those people will be need to be involved with complicated gifts. But really, what is important for you when you're looking at planned giving is the ability to engage with people. And we know that that's what you already do on a day-to-day basis.
The next myth is that planned gifts compete with major gifts. And really many times people who are making a planned gift aren't those donors who are also your major gifts now. They're separate prospects. So sometimes sometimes we'll talk a little bit more about this later, that planned givers have been giving a small amount annually for many years, but can give a larger gift at the end of their life or in their estate plan. So very often major gift candidates and planned gift prospects aren't necessarily the same people. And there's another conversation we could have about blended gifts where you can ask for an even bigger major gift that includes a gift now with a commitment for a planned gift later on.
Our next myth is we don't have very many planned gift prospects. And this is totally a myth that this was a myth I had, my assumption at Sound Outreach and other opportunities before working at nonprofits. And you may be thinking this too. Or you might think, I just don't have any donors at all. Come on. And don't worry, we are going to talk much more. The fact is, you probably have these donors already, and they're there. It's just about building those relationships. And we're going to talk about how to build really good, strong relationships and tools that you can use.
And the last myth, we can't do planned giving because our donor base isn't rich. And really the fact here is that one of the most incredible parts about planned giving is you don't have to be Bill Gates or Mackenzie Scott or Melinda Gates to make a transformational planned gift. When donors leave part of their estate or part of their wealth to a charity, it can be tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's available to many people at many income levels, not just the most ultra wealthy. And so that's really the power of planned giving, is that it can be ordinary people who want to do something transformational in their estate plans. And
So we want to,
oh
yes. No, you're good. we are going to tell you a little bit more about planned giving. You were good, Genevieve. Yeah. So here are just a few more stats. Planned gifts can be significantly larger than a donor's largest outright gift. For instance, if they're giving to you out of their income in their lifetime, and then they may possibly give you, a percentage of the value of their house. You also hear about avoiding taxes a lot with planned giving or just giving in general. And studies are showing that donors aren't in it necessarily for the tax benefit. They are giving because they believe in you and they believe in your mission. So once you get a program growing, you can see that, planned giving leads to an increase in about 75% in annual giving. And this happens even during a recession. And Mindie is going to talk about some planned giving benefits.
Yeah, so just to summarize kind of what the point we're making so far, including planned giving as part of your fundraising will help you meet your mission and carry out your cause by helping you diversify your fundraising, diversify the types of fundraising that are coming in, providing a way for ordinary people to make transformational gifts to your organization. It can be a way for your giver or your donor to make a statement about what they care about in their lifetime. It has the highest return on investment of any kind of fundraising. That means for every dollar spent, it has the highest return. It is, of course, a slower, more long-term kind of fundraising, but it does have the highest ROI. And really, nonprofits who had even just basic planned giving in place during the pandemic fared better than organizations who didn't. And so just another kind of example of planned giving as a way to set your organization and your mission up for success in the long term. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Doug.
Thank you, Mindie. Thank you, Kirstin. We're going to talk a little bit about planned giving ideas. Hopefully that's going to populate, right? There it is. Things to give. Well, we all know you can give cash. Most people know you can give stocks and you can give bonds and you can give mutual funds. Most people know you can give real estate, closely held stock, something not everybody has. That's more of a complex gift, but those are gifts that can be given. Life insurance. Life insurance can make a wonderful gift through beneficiary designation. Tangible personal property. Not all tangible personal property can work for tax reasons, but it can be a gift, and there could be some benefits to giving tangible personal properties. And then IRAs and retirement plans, fabulous planned gifts. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. How do you make these gifts? Well, you do it through an outright gift. You simply write a check. We all know how that works. Bequests. We're going to spend some time talking about bequests. We won't talk too much about charitable remainder trusts or charitable gift annuities, but you need to know that those are two really powerful ways. They can be a little complicated, but they're not super difficult, and we're here to help. Beneficiary designations we'll talk about. Life estates. Mary Dale did a life estate. We won't talk about that today, but it's an opportunity for someone to make a gift of their residence and still live in it for the rest of their life. And then charitable lead trusts. The GTCF, where I work, has done a charitable lead trust. It's the only one I've ever seen in my entire 40-year career. So they're not common, but they can be really powerful if in the right circumstance. So let's talk about the next slide. Number one, most common and easiest. Just like, how many of you remember David Letterman? You guys old enough to remember David Letterman, the top 10 list? Hopefully you heard that. Number one, most common and easiest way to make a planned gift is a bequest through someone's will or trust. It's really at least 85% of planned gifts are bequests. They're easy to implement. They are revocable. Stewardship's important, and they can be easy to promote. And we'll talk about how we can promote bequests. They can come in basically three, maybe more forms. One is a general bequest that says, I give this specific dollar amount to XYZ charity. More common, it's a percentage bequest. It says, okay, and by the way, this is the thing that I used to do at PLU, and I think a lot of you probably do this as well, and that is you say, well, if you consider including, my organization in your estate plan, you have 4 children, make my organization your 5th child, and then everybody gets an equal percentage. So percentage giving, I think that's probably the easiest and the best way to assure that everybody's going to get something. If you did a general bequest, there's chances that if you ran out of resources due to long-term care or whatever, that you might disinherit unintentionally. And then finally, specific bequests that says, you know what, I give all my stock portfolio or my real estate to my kids, and I leave my IRA or other asset to charity. So that's a specific bequest. Let's go to the next slide. The second most common and easiest way to make a planned gift, beneficiary designations. And by the way, if you're out there working with your donors and you're talking with them about planned giving or this topic, you can do them a great favor sometimes if you ask them, by the way, who is the beneficiary of your IRA or of your work fund, your retirement fund, or your life insurance? Oftentimes, and this has happened to me more times than I can count, someone will say, I think that's my ex-wife or my ex-husband. And I say, well, you might want to change that because you probably don't want them to be the beneficiary of your life insurance policy. So beneficiary designations, easy to do. Life insurance, I'm not a huge fan of life insurance gifts, but they can be a powerful gift. You can give a paid up policy. I love those. I'm a big fan of paid up policies. Or you can purchase a new policy, naming the charity as the owner and the beneficiary. And then if they make the premium payments to the organization and then the organization makes the premium payments to the insurance company, those gifts can be deductible. Retirement plans, we mentioned that earlier. I teased that a little bit. Lifetime gifts of withdrawals to charities cause withdrawal amounts to be included as income to donor. You all know that, right? With offsetting charitable deduction, if you give that withdrawal to a charity, you get an offsetting deduction. Not everybody can use a charitable deduction, right? We've learned that because only like 8% of the general population in the United States are able to itemize on their taxes, which means that they're not benefiting from charitable deductions. So there's a better way to do that. Before I get to that better way, testamentary gifts of transferring your account to charity at death. So basically, you name the charity as the beneficiary, and you can do it as a percentage, a specific amount. You have that flexibility with your IRA to name charity and non-charitable beneficiaries. And then we've got ERISA plans such as 401ks, 403bs. Your spouse must sign off because they're the automatic beneficiary, so be careful there. And the non-ERISA, such as IRAs, the spouse is not required to sign off as a beneficiary. So why is that important? Because, hopefully you and your spouse, did it say wife? It said spouse. I said wife because I'm married to my wife and I'm thinking about my wife, not being gender specific there. I apologize. Let's go to the next slide. This is what I was about to get into, and that is there are some really important non-cash gifts that can be made during a lifetime. So we're talking during life, not at death. Gifts of stock, we talked about that. It's a smart way to give appreciated stock. If you sell it during your lifetime, you're going to pay a tax, capital gains tax. If you gift it to a charity, the charity doesn't pay tax. And so they are able to receive the full amount, the full value of the stock. No capital gain tax is paid, and you get an income tax deduction for the full fair market value. It's also true that if you have stock and you die with it, then it will get a step up in basis for the children or your heirs who inherit it. So if you look at the gifts of IRA, how many of you have heard of qualified charitable distributions from your IRAs? It has to be an IRA. It can't be a 403b or 401k. Most people move their 403bs into an IRA when they retire. So if you are 70 years and a half, not going to be 70 and a half, but you have to actually be 70 and a half, you can give up to $105,000 to one or more charities from your taxable IRA. Why would you do that? Well, because you can't itemize, you don't get benefits, so you don't need an income tax deduction. But you want to reduce your IRA because it's too big, and you don't want your kids to inherit it, so you can give that to a charitable organization. And I'm going to give you a really handy tool here in just a second. If you are over 73, you're actually required to take money out of your IRA. Some people don't want to do that. Some people say, I have enough money from Social Security and other investments. I don't want to have to take more money out from my IRA. Well, you can transfer that RMD or more, up to $105,000, to a charity without having to recognize that as taxable income. It can go directly to a 501c3. That's a charitable organization, public charitable organization, but it has to come directly from the administrator to the nonprofit. Although they're getting pretty savvy now, and a lot of administrators are issuing checking accounts for IRAs, and those, you can do a checking account. You just have to make sure you document it really well, and there's some other things. We can talk about that later. And then don't forget about donor advised funds. Fastest growing way to support charitable organizations in the country right now, donor advised funds. And both of us at the Community Foundation, we offer donor advised funds. Obviously, Fidelity and Schwab, those are the largest donor advised fund holders in the country. And those can make fabulous gifts. And boy, are they fun, because the donor's already made the gift. All you have to do is convince the donor that your organization should be the beneficiary or should be a grantee. So let's go to the next slide. This is my gift to you. You can get your own copy if you go to PG Calc and then just Google or just put that in the search bar. But this is such a helpful tool. If you're talking to a donor who's 70 and a half or 73, and they're saying, well, I don't know, should I give a qualified charitable distribution from my IRA? Should I give appreciated stock, or should I give cash? I just don't know what to do. Well, you ask the first question, do you itemize? Yes. You go to the left bar, the left tree there. Are you required to take your required minimum distributions? No, I'm not 73 yet. Okay, well then that's no. And then if it's no, then you'll see, go down to the donor funds. Do you have appreciated securities? No. Then should you fund it with cash? Yes. If no, then maybe wait until the entire QCD reduces the RMD. Lots of acronyms, I apologize. Anyways, you can see how that works. If you go to the right side, they don't itemize. Well, the qualified, this is where QCDs really can become a powerful estate planning tool. They don't itemize. Will the QCD count towards your required minimum distribution? Yes. Well, then do it. Go right to go. If the answer is no, then maybe you consider appreciated securities if they have them. That is my gift to you. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm finished. Let's go to Mindie, talk about some other examples of planned gifts.
Yeah, so for me, stories help illuminate those acronyms that Doug was talking about. So I'm just going to give two real life examples of planned gifts that I've been a part of to illustrate what's possible. So one example is, a couple of years ago, we received an unrestricted $40,000 gift. We were a partial beneficiary of this individual's retirement account. So that just meant, we were one of the people who received part of one of this individual's retirement accounts. And we didn't have this person in our database as a planned gift. We didn't know this was coming, but I looked back to see kind of what their giving history was with us. And this person had been making a $50 to $100 gift to our organization for 25 years. So I think that's just an example of the point we were making earlier, that, someone who's kind of a longtime annual donor can make a much more significant gift. in their estate plan. So the other example I wanted to share is an endowment example. A donor we were working with left, she was of modest means, and she left $250,000 to establish an endowment to support youth causes. So that endowment means that gift was meant to exist forever or in perpetuity. And we, the Community Foundation, grant out the earnings or interest on that gift. So that endowment was established in 2017. Since then, we've been able to grant 134,000 just off the earnings to youth serving organizations. If you're in Thurston County, you may have heard of the Bridge Music Project or Fire Mountain Arts Council, or Salmon in the Classroom in Mason County. So that 250,000 is still there invested, and we're able to support all of these great youth serving organizations across Thurston, Mason, and Lewis County. So again, just two real life examples of how planned gifts are serving organizations in the community.
And I'm going to talk about who typically, makes a planned gift. And I think a lot of you, the experience, history, that those top, unbolded ones are your most common, what you hear about, those donors with no children, the widow or widower having outlived a spouse. But, those bolded ones at the bottom, I think are also ones that, are now interesting ones to think about. Those donors that don't have an income to make a large gift now, but will in the future. And the one I love is the loyal donors. I mean, that's like the example that Mindie just gave. Loyal donors who have given annually, they attend your events and they volunteer. Those are your prospects. Those are the ones that you have built, those relationships with yourself and your organization.
So, we've talked about how important it is for your organization to prepare to take part in the Great Wealth Transfer. The other part of the story is there's untapped opportunity here. According to Russell James, who's on faculty at Texas Tech University and an expert in the psychology of charitable giving, only 8% of people over 55 include a charitable gift to a nonprofit in their estate plan. Only 8%. So that means there's more room to go here and more opportunity to talk to those loyal donors that Kirstin was just talking about. In fact, I've heard different estimates, but 35, fewer than 50% of Americans even have a will, let alone are leaving a gift to charity. So part of Leave 10, which we'll talk about in a minute, is to help encourage and lift up this language about leaving a gift to charity, but just creating a will in the first place. But we have to ask.
All right. Here we go. I guess top 10 list is kind of my jam here. So Mindie and I are going to share with you the top 10 actionable steps that you can take to initiate or invigorate your planned giving program. First thing you can do, and it's an easy thing to do, create a legacy society. Create a legacy society. You can come up with a fancy name. At PLU, ours was called the Harstad Heritage Society, because Bugh Harstad was the university's first president. At the foundation, it's just the Legacy Society. So think of something creative and create a Legacy Society, and then invite people to join. If you have a capital campaign, incorporate legacy requests to your solicitation. We often refer to it as being a three-legged stool. You've got annual giving, ask for annual gifts always, capital for whatever the project is that you're trying to raise funds for, and then a future gift, a legacy gift. Reach out to your local community foundation. We're here to help. Community is in our name for a reason. We want the community to do well. We want the community to prosper. We want the community to continue to benefit from the mission that you do here in our communities. So reach out to us so we can be helpful. Use language. It talks about legacy and mission. Tell stories like Marydale or stories that you might have about how a bequest has really impacted and changed and just, you know, done something remarkable, transformational, as Mindie said. And share stories. I mentioned that. So share stories of real donors. Those are very powerful.
They are. And I think the top 10 is a great way for people just getting started, because you can pick one or two of these. You don't have to implement a full plan giving program. You can just look at this list and start implementing a few of them. So carrying on from that first half, the other 5 actionable steps, add it to your donation forms, your rack cards, or your checkout forms that you pass out, your envelopes that you pass out at events, or your checkout form online. Just a little checkbox that says something like, I'm interested in talking, you know, about leaving a planned gift to this organization, or just some simple checkbox to identify who might want to talk to you about this. Another thing you can do is reach out to your current donor base to identify who already is potentially planning to leave a gift. One organization did this a few years ago. They just sent a letter to some of their longtime donors, and they got several responses back that they had no idea about. Some organizations use donor surveys for this sort of thing, but it's another way to get started, especially if you're thinking about starting that legacy society, or it's to identify who's already sort of in there and planning to make a gift. Just have some sample will language available in case the conversation comes up. As Doug said, you know, just a gift in a will is the most common kind of planned gift. So sometimes you'll get asked for sample will or bequest language. Typically that just includes your organization's legal name, your tax ID, your address. You know, you can ask me or Doug, or probably just Google any national nonprofit and they have their sample bequest language, and you can have that ready for your own organization. Another thing you can do is participate in Make a Will Month. More on that coming soon, but I heard the CEO of freewill.com say that Free Will saw 150% increase in bequest commitments in August compared to other months because of this promotion of an energy around Make a Will Month. And then last but not least, because it's why we're all here, become a Leave 10 South Sound champion and be part of this community that's supporting each other to continue to promote planned giving within your own organizations.
And I am excited to tell you all more about Leave 10, because I know for many of you, or maybe none of you, but myself, I was overwhelmed, you know, when I've heard about the great wealth transfer and, you know, getting started and even taking actionable steps. It's like, I just need some help with this. And I really feel like where Leave 10 South Sound comes in, not only for those in the nonprofit community, professional advisors and donors, but really for our community. So the mission of Leave 10 South Sound is to build better communities and transform ordinary people into philanthropists by educating, inspiring, and encouraging individuals to leave 10% of their assets to charity or estates to charity. And the great thing is it doesn't have to be 10%. That's just the number. That's the entry point, or easy to talk about. It's a way to say, you know, think of causes that you care about in your planning. And as we heard from Doug and Mindie, that some of that wealth that went back into if just some of that wealth went back into our communities, really imagine the possibilities. More equitable access to education, health and social services, greater economic opportunity, more arts and culture, et cetera, et cetera. So the next slide because these are just really our desired outcomes of Leave 10. We want to build awareness, make sure everybody is talking about it and taking action. It really does take repeated messaging. I have had to listen to about the Great Wealth Transfer about a half a dozen times before it was like, this is something we need to do at Sound Outreach or take advantage of. We've listened to many nonprofits with Leave 10 South Sound, and we've heard that nonprofits are under-resourced or may not have the time, skills, or capacity to really run a planned giving program. If you're like me, you're not even really comfortable talking about planned gifts right now, but we provide the tools, resources, and education for nonprofits of all sizes and levels of experience to be successful in attracting and accepting planned gifts. We really want to see professional advisors also recognize Leave 10 as an idea that can appeal to the generous nature of their clients and help those clients reach their charitable goals in a way that's best suited to their financial needs. So I want to tell you, and Evelyn kind of pointed out a little bit in the chat about some tools and resources that are available for you on the Leave 10 org website. We have provided toolkits. Leave 10 Seattle actually graciously shared their nonprofit and professional advisor toolkit. But this is a toolkit that's ideal for organizations just starting out, or those that are well involved but need to get some more ideas or change things up. There's also a toolkit for professional advisors and for your donors, and individuals will find resources such as perspective on leaving a legacy, getting started with an estate plan, how to make a gift through your will or beneficiary designation. And they will find connections to advisors and nonprofits who are already in our champion network. Oh, here's some of these amazing tools and resources that we have in the next slide. You'll find marketing materials like this amazing, virtual background that you see behind us all. You can also use, co-branding stuff, the logo, social media graphics, an email footer. Sometimes just starting off or just having a Leave 10 logo is a great way for people to start a conversation with you, ask you, what is this Leave 10 all about? And this information is available to any and all nonprofits and others, so you can use it. The website and tools really do evolve over time, and we just hope to keep continuing to grow the resources and information that we have. We especially want to grow our list of champions and capture your testimonials and stories. We hope you will go to the website often and introduce others so that they can learn about Leave 10 access these valuable tools and sign on as champions.
Kirstin, if I can interrupt real quick.
Yeah.
That toolkit has, in addition to the stuff we inherited from the Seattle chapter of Leave 10, Evelyn and all of us who were involved in the early days, we just uploaded tons of information in there. It might be a bit unwieldy because there's so much in there, but one of the things that I heard from a lot of people is, we got our first bequest. What do I do? What do I do? How do I, it's all, they're nervous because it involves courts and attorneys and legalese and all that. There's some information in there, sample letters. There's even a checklist of what you should do if you become notified that you are in someone's estate. And you have to wait through probate, but there's all kinds of good information that we think will be really helpful to just about anybody. I'm sorry for interrupting, Kirstin.
No, that's perfect. It gave me a chance for my voice to catch up a little bit. Because the real question here is, I'm sure some of you are asking yourself, why would I want to become a champion of Leave 10? And really, Leave 10 goal is, and you can go to the next, thanks, Genevieve. Leave 10's goal is to help nonprofits attract larger gifts through education, networking, and collective promotion. We really want to emphasize that Leave 10 is not competing with you for donations. It exists to support you in attracting donations. In addition to developing tools, resources, and educational opportunities, it can help, build plan giving programs and expertise. We want to build this network of champions dedicated to advancing the mission of Leave 10. So why do you want to be a leader? Why would you want to be a nonprofit champion? Well, it's to be recognized as a leader and to position to your organization as a catalyst, more stronger, vibrant community. We want to build you want to build deeper client relationships and attract larger, more impactful gifts to your organization. And of course, to help and strengthen all organizations and make our community a better place for generations to come. We've already mentioned some of the benefits like the toolkit. You have free access to this. You'll have advanced educational opportunities, not just like this program, but other programs that have been put on in the past. You can have access to volunteer mentorship program that's staffed by local nonprofits like us on this panel today. And those are something like what I have experienced, help smaller organizations that just need a little bit more assistance, motivation, or like a mentor, to help coach you along. So finally, you can become a champion. We'll show our website in this next slide. So you can become, a champion by visiting the website and becoming a champion. Your organization will get recognition on Leave 10 South Sound website and the leave10.org website, giving you more visibility. And here are some examples of some of the nonprofit champions. And to become a champion, you just go to the website and click Become a Champion button and complete your organization's mission. Sometimes you want to have your CEO or executive director of your organization sign the pledge form with you as well. If you really want to make an impact, get your entire team, to sign up. And we just really encourage you to sign on also as an individual champion, making your own personal commitment to Leave 10. So I know I've gone through these past slides rather quickly, but really we appreciate everybody coming in today and listening to our intro, to Leave 10 and plan giving programs. Wouldn't it be great if we were talking earlier about having a program for what's coming up, Make a Will Month in August? So your Leave 10 Programs Committee will be putting together another program called the Make a Will Month webinar. It's going to be July 24th, noon to 1 p.m. Once again, it will be on Zoom. And really, this will give you some actionable steps on how to use Make a Will Month to boost your plan giving program. You'll hear from different sized nonprofits who will talk about how they have used Make a Will Month to boost their plan giving. And I'm sure we have 2 minutes for questions and answers or anything else.
We've got a slide with our email addresses on there if you'd like to reach out to us with a question you're too shy to ask in public. Thanks,
Yeah,
Mark.
that's what I was going to say too, Doug, is because we didn't leave a lot of time for questions. Feel free to reach out to this group and we'll either turn it into another webinar or answer your questions individually. I did see two questions. One is, what happens if a nonprofit talks to a community foundation about planned giving? What could we help with? So I can answer that. Sometimes nonprofits work with community foundations to manage their endowments. So that can be one way to sort of lessen the administrative burden for small and medium-sized nonprofits. And the Community Foundation, it's one of the core activities that we do is manage charitable assets for many different donors, including nonprofit organizations. So that can be one way. And then also we tend to have people on staff who have expertise in planned giving, and like Doug at Greater Tacoma Community Foundation, and can just be supporters, advisors, mentors in sort of supporting your organization's planned giving program. It's also why we're involved. Both of our organizations are involved in Leave 10 to share this planned giving knowledge more broadly with the community. Another question I don't know that we'll have time for, but was about, is Reule worth it for those organizations that are using it? Does anyone want to chime in on that?
I'll just simply say it's quite expensive. It does have a place in the toolkit for us. I mean, in our own toolkits, but you don't need to. Anybody can go to freewill.com and write a will. They won't promote your organization unless you actually are paying them to do so. So we can talk more offline about whether Reule is worth it. We at the PLU used it, and we raised quite a bit of future gift intentions. Yeah.
So
Dean Carroll's happy with it too over at the foundation, at the Pierce County Library Foundation. Sorry, Mindie, go ahead.
no, that's okay. I was just going to say, I want to be respectful of people's time. Thank you for joining us for your lunch hour. Thanks for your interest in Leave 10. Feel free to reach out to any of us, and hope to see you next month for the Make a Will Month webinar.
And if you want to hang out for a little bit, we'll be happy